Okay, so for my bait today, I'm going to do a little bit of a scrounge challenge. This is something I did as a child. I'm getting ready to tie a rig too while I'm searching. But as a kid, there, I'm going to use that little piece of skin right there. As a kid, my parents didn't tell me what a bait shop was. So I had to imagine ways. So I'd go to the marinas or somewhere like that, find me a little dried up piece of something that the bait fish would eat, catch a bait fish, turn him into fresh cut bait fish, and basically put him in a frenzy and start catching one after another. And this is plenty good chunk to get started with. So I'm going to tie my rig and I'll come back. Okay, so here's the setup if you weren't keeping track. I've got the little super dried piece of bait with the nice strong skin, which that's something you want to look for when you do this, is a strong piece of skin. And I made a double dropper rig just for the heck of it. Just something for them nice to chew on. 2 size 1 hooks and a little bitty 3/8 weight on the bottom. I'm going to put this hook through this old dry crusty piece of scrounge bait. That'll do. If we can get them to eat it, that's all that matters. And then basically from that, the first one I catch, I can start cutting it into fresh pieces to use. Unless they just go crazy over this, which they might. But it usually takes a few minutes for the first one, for the crusty piece to do any good. That looks like somebody's net stuck down there. So I've got it through the skin, I'm going to put it down there where some larger pinfish might be found. They're biting it already. Chomp, chomp, bump, thump, thump, thump. It's really tough on there, so they can't just gulp it and run. But let's hope that nice dried up piece of bait is still on there. Yeah, it's not so dry and crusty that it's falling right off. I'll take another swing at it. Right next to the shadow line. I'll leave some slack in the line this time too. So if they want to leave with it, they can. That's a little too much slack. Get their attention. Come on, look at that, bait fish already. Let's hope it's bait. It is a bait species. It's a big one too. There's a big, big pinfish. Oh, and he's gill hooked. So he's destined for cut bait anyway. Greedy, greedy, greedy. I forgot my little rag too. Yep, he's kind of toast. We'll give him some air though. Alright, let's try a little closer where they might be a little smaller. There is good. That was a good tug. That was another good tug. They're running a little big. That's okay. I think I'm into putting one on the hook today. This guy shook so hard, he knocked my bait off my other hook, which is fine. Somebody's getting slashed up for catching more anyway, or I'll just use my junk bait. Okay, so I got to carry the silver with me to get that thing out of my sleeve. This guy's alive, so we'll unhook the sleeve. Yep, he flung bait off of my bait, off of my hook, because he was just so excited to be here with me. And okay, that's one on the top of the rig and one on the bottom of the rig, so there's really no pattern other than the pinfish are running a little bigger. So I'm gonna retie some stuff on my larger rod and set that guy out. We'll come back when that's ready to go.
I don't usually shoot outros, but I'm thinking it might be something I want to start doing. I've been thinking back on this week's video where I did the bait challenge, and that when I was a kid, you know, people used to say count your blessings, and it's something you just hear people say, oh, count your blessings. And to me, a lot of times when I heard that, it sounded a lot like, oh, quit your whining, just go away. And whether that's a good way to look at it or not, I guess doesn't matter, because it's become cliche. It's just become this thing you hear and it doesn't seem to mean anything. So rather than count your blessings, how about don't be distracted by what you don't have. If you forgot to pick something up, or if you haven't been, just, you know, improvise, count what's around you. Look at the blessings that are near you and use those to improve your situation or to keep going. And you're not going to see me judge people on their equipment. I had nothing now, and I've got middle of the road stuff now that's, and you could even say it's the low end of the middle of the road, but it's good stuff that will last me. I have rods that I've had for years now, and they're, of course, they're not antiques at all by any stretch, but you know, we're talking about good 5-6 years of service life going on, and I'm picking up new equipment as I go, and I'm thrilled to have it. There is higher end stuff that I might start looking at someday, because I've talked to other people who had high end stuff and said, you know, asked them, is it really worth it if you can spend it? And a lot of times they say, you know, if you can spend it for this higher end stuff, it is worth having. So I'll consider that decision further in the future. But in the meantime, I'm thrilled with what I have. I'm well pleased with what I've got, and I'll work with it and hopefully start tearing into some bigger fish and more fish more often, and, you know, making a real show of it. But I'm not going to judge somebody on what they've got that they're working with, because they're out there, they're fishing, they're having a good time. And, you know, the worst thing I might think is you're going to have to replace that soon. But that's probably the worst I'm going to think. Anyway, guys, don't get distracted by what you don't have. Have a great week.